So we always like to have a personal touch on these
Sure.
videos. So we've talked a lot about uh, your professional career, you landing in Brazil. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't want my personal life to be affected. I want to flourish, professionally and personally." So you went there, maybe a couple of bags by yourself, but tell us a little bit of how that changed while you were in
Ooh.
Brazil.
Yeah. Well, so when I got here, man, Brazil is an amazing place. For
Everybody knows that.
It's an amazing place. I can say to you, culturally, this place is different. I like sometimes I say that there are aspects that remind me of the 1950s and 60s. And what I mean by that is women, like how women are. They really take care of a man. They really do. It's like a whole different mentality. And so when I got here, I went out, I traveled, I went to Rio, went to the beach. I get some pretty good friends. I did not want to go, and my community be only Americans in Brazil. I wanted to see the real Brazil, and I love music and I love samba. Love samba. And so, and what ended up happening, so I was here doing my thing, working hard, playing hard too. And then I went with some friends to a samba club. And I go to the samba club, and there's the baddest woman I had ever seen in my life. I'm just like, wow. And like I'm dressed like a Brazilian. I know how to samba. I'm the man.
How long until your time in Brazil was this, by the way?
This was a couple years. So this was about a year and a half.
Okay.
In Brazil. And so I'm at this samba, and I've been to many samba clubs, and I dated a lot.
You're comfortable at this point in the area.
I'm comfortable. Not speaking much Portuguese, but I'm comfortable. Like,
yeah.
and I'm like exotic to them. Yeah. So it was like, whoa, okay. And so I met this woman. I'm there with a bunch of friends, and then all of us. And so I go to her, and my wife can samba. Man, she's like she used to teach samba to people. And so she was amazing. And so one of my friends, my coworkers and his wife came with me. And then I met a bunch of Brazilian dudes there who were wild, just wild. And so I'm there and having a good time. And my coworker's wife got drunk. She got drunk. And so she's around having fun. I'm having fun, samba, talking to girls, just enjoying just a normal Saturday afternoon was samba time, drinking some beers. And she walks up and says, "You need to meet my friend Rodney." And to my wife, and I didn't know she did this. And he's American. She's like, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't speak English. So no, thank you. And so I go and I'm watching this girl dance, and I'm just like, oh my God. And so I walk up to her, and I'm like, in Portuguese, "Hi, my name is Rodney. Do you speak English?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, okay, well, here's my number. And I knew a little Portuguese. Here's my number.
Yeah.
Let's connect. I'd love to take you out to dinner. And she was there with her family for her birthday. Okay. And so she called me, and I'm like, oh my God. And my coworker and his wife, they're Portuguese from Portugal. And I was like, you guys got to go on a double date with me. I can't talk to this girl, but I got to talk to this girl.
No Google Translate back then.
Like, you got to be my translator. so I
can't mess this up.
I was like, I got it. So you got to, and so we did the first double date, and she translated, and I got to meet her, talk to her, and then we went out again. And then, next thing, a few years later, I'm married. I got 2 beautiful kids. She
That's
speaks
amazing.
English fluently because
Nice.
my wife was an attorney in Brazil.
Okay.
And at the time, and then one of my and I was starting to get better with my Portuguese because she didn't speak English. But then one of my sponsors at the time, Kevin Turner, said, "Listen, we're gonna bring you out of there at some point." Before he left Microsoft, we're gonna bring you out of there at some point. Are you serious about this, girl? And I said, maybe. He's like, well, you need to switch. You need to switch to English because if you're serious about this girl, and I send you somewhere and she doesn't speak English, she's gonna be miserable. And so I listened to him, right? And that was a conversation that you're having.
That's a very good point, actually.
I mean, let's set the tone. This is the CEO of Global Microsoft having that conversation with you.
And you know what?
That's
To the day
huge.
I die, I'm a massive Kevin Turner fan because every
That's
time
a side of him we don't hear. You don't hear about.
No. He was amazing. He was. To this day, he taught me a lot. Now there were times he kicked my butt when I didn't do some stuff I wasn't supposed to, but I deserved it. But no, he had that conversation. So every time he came to Brazil, he would call me, and I'd have lunch with him, and he talked to me. He'd tell me, we talk about the business, but he talked to me about life. And to my grave, that dude to me is.
So how did she learn it? So you shifted to English. So how did that process go for her?
Well, she first fought that process, and then I said, "Listen, this ain't gonna work."
You were married or dating at this point?
Dating. We were dating, and I said, "This ain't gonna work." As I told her, I was like, "Listen, at some point, like the 3 previous moves for me happened in about 2 to 3 weeks. So if this happens, this is gonna happen." And so and I said, "This ain't gonna work. I don't, if you're not willing to learn English." So she went and took lessons, and and she was in there, and she and she started speaking more English. She got more confidence with English, and then we were still dating, and then we got married.
That's incredible.
In December, and then in December we got married, and then come July, June, July, the Microsoft shift of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
And then that's when they said, "Okay, Rodney, it's time for you to go back to the US." And it happened. And I was back in the US in 2 weeks. And she was like, "Oh my God." She didn't have no visa. We were, just starting all that whole process. And so we lived apart for about 8 months while she had to go through the visa process. But now, she moved to Seattle with me. We were in Seattle for a while, but we just moved back to the Chicagoland area. And I still have a home in Brazil, and we split our time. So I typically try to spend, my kids are still small, 2 and 4. And there's a significant age difference between my wife and I. And so my kids are still small. So they spend the winters here, and then I come back and forth.
And you're in Brazil right now. We didn't say that earlier, but you're in Brazil right now.
Yeah, I'm in Brazil right now. I was there. I was here for Christmas, New Year's, and then I had to go for a work trip. But now I'm back, and so they're here, and we'll be here probably till like February, and then we go back.
She doesn't like Chicago winters.
No.
Rodney, let me ask you this. I want to just get a timeline. So, how long were you in Brazil from the time you landed in Brazil until you got married?
Till the time I landed in Brazil to the time I got married, it was about 2 years. No, because I dated, because I was still fighting, brother. I was still.
You know how it is. Yep.
I was still trying to be single. It was about 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
4.5, 5 years.
You put up a pretty good fight for a little while.
Yeah, that was. But he was in Brazil, so. Let me ask you this. You talked about, we've had several episodes where we've talked to colleagues who spend time overseas. And one of the questions that I think a lot of people have is, you talked about your social group and going out with friends. How did you first, like as a foreigner, how did you first connect with that group on the social level, the people you hung out with?
Now, that was hard. That was very difficult. At first, like you can go out and you can get superficial, but if you didn't speak the language, it was very difficult. So there was at the time, I think there was only about 5% of the population in Brazil that spoke English. And so if you're looking at the kind of the elites, the top class, a lot of those folks speak English.
Yep.
A lot of the people who worked for companies like Microsoft and Google and those companies, they spoke English. And so that was kind of the network I was hanging around at first. And then I became good friends with a woman who then who then opened up her circle to me. And so I started to acquire friends because, for example, there was her best friend married a guy from the UK. They were there because they were going to adopt a little girl, a Brazilian child. And so I started hanging out with them. I started hanging out with some of the people at work that kind of had a like mind and like interests. And so it was a journey to acquire people who had stuff in common. And it was a journey to acquire people who were willing to trust an American, because our reputation can be a little difficult to break into in certain countries. Like there's some people who just don't like you because you're an American. There's some people who automatically respect you. Like, so being a black man, I went to bars and stuff like that. And a few times when people thought I was a Brazilian guy, some of those rich dudes were a bit rude and arrogant. And then when I started speaking English, oh, you're an American. They changed.
Totally
immediately. Start drinking with you. Then they, you're the COO of Microsoft Brazil. Then they change even more. By then, they're buying you drinks and wanting your business card. And so some of those social aspects of things that you see are still there. But people equate, green dollars from different aspects of things that you have to be careful in the people you connect with, because people may want to connect with you, but they may not necessarily have your best interest at heart. They want to just get something out of you because you're an American, or you're an American and you're the COO of Microsoft in the country. And so those are some things that I had to figure out how to be selective in the people that I surrounded myself with. And I genuinely just needed to have connections with people, because what I learned is working in a country like Brazil or in a Latin culture, a lot of the people need to feel like they're your friend in order to work with you and have you and lead. And so you have to touch the heart of people. And that's a lesson that I learned in my time in Brazil. And I still bring that to bear with the work that I do today. I try to be tough but fair. I try to connect to people to try to help them and do it in a place of, a good place for the heart. Do I still want to climb the corporate ladder? Absolutely. But I'm not going to sacrifice that by, taking shortcuts. And I'm going to focus on trying to do the best job that I can do. And then when, at the end of the day, when I close my eyes for the last time, the thing that's going to be the most important for me was how I did it. What was I able to do? And will my kids be proud of the stories that people will tell about their daddy? And so that's awesome. Kind of where I am today. I can't say that I was always there. I was more, and there was a time it was probably more cutthroat. Now I don't have time for that stuff, man. I'm just trying to do the best job I can, trying to surround myself with people who I can help, and try to kind kind of lead by example and figure the rest out, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So I know we're going to wrap up soon. Dave, you have any additional questions?
Yeah, Rodney, you mentioned a couple times you did the best job you could. You focused on your job. What would you say to some of the ones, especially young ones starting out early in their tech career, where they feel like they are doing their best job, but they're still not getting noticed, or they don't have a sponsor not coming out to them? How would you coach them?
Here's what I would coach them to do. When I first started out, prior to Microsoft, I moved several times. And so I looked to accomplish certain goals. And if I accomplished those goals, I stayed and did what I was going to do. If I felt as though I hit a ceiling, that's when I made the decision to make a move. And so what the coaching I would give to those folks is, you may think you're doing the best job you can do. You had better surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth and keep you honest. That's where mentors come in. So I talked about sponsors and what sponsors are. Mentors are people that you choose because there's something that they have that you connect with, you talk to them, and you got to make sure that those mentors share the reality of you and make sure that they tell you. Like, there were some times that I thought that I was doing the best job that I could, and I thought I was kicking butt. But at the times, I was leaving a body count in my wake.
Oh.
Right? And so it's not just the what, it's also the how.
Yeah.
And so what I would say to those folks is, are they surrounding themselves with people and mentors who can coach them, who can help them, who can be very honest? I told you the story about the woman, Lizianne Lemos, she's now a secretary for the governor of one of the states in Brazil. And so she worked with us. She then went to Google, and then she left Google. She then went with you guys. and then she left to be she was appointed secretary of diversity and inclusion for one of the states in one of the southern states of Brazil. Lizianne came in, and Lizianne was smart. She's still smart to this day. She's brilliant. But Lizianne had a little chip on her shoulder. And Lizianne was a bit abrasive with people, a bit defensive, classic imposter syndrome. And so I'm the number 2 guy in Brazil at the time. Lizianne's in the org, a few levels down. But I called Lizianne into the office, and I had a very tough conversation with her. And in that conversation, I said, listen, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I said, you're going about this to the path where you're going to be the rightest person in history, but nobody's going to like you, and you're not going to acquire any sponsors. I was like, your insecurity is forcing you to do things and act towards people that you know that is not going to get you the thing that you want to achieve. You don't want to be the angry Black person.
Yeah.
You don't. And I said, so you're here because we know you can get the job done, but how you're acting is you don't think you belong. So you're trying to prove yourself better than everyone.
Overcompensating.
Yes. And oh my God, she cried. Oh boy, she cried. She was not happy. She went home. She talked to her boyfriend at the time. And I said, when you come back, let's go have another conversation. And so I had that tough conversation, and then she changed. She was getting stuff done. She had done some amazing stuff. And shortly thereafter, probably about a year after that, She was named, like, think about it, a young Black woman, Forbes 40 under 40.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, and just brilliant, just a brilliant sister. But she learned that. Now she's blowing up. She's a part of the, the Brazilian government. She has so many followers on social media. She's connecting with them, talking about how to be a Black person working in the Brazilian market. She's networking with all these people. She's networking with billionaires and doing all this amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But it took a moment for her to realize that she belonged. It took, and now she's flourishing, and I'm so proud of her. But at the time, I took a risk. Like, when you're in a company situation, having that type of conversation, you're not always going to be able to have that direct of a conversation with people.
Right.
But
and for them to respond in the way she did, she could have said, "I walked out the door."
She could have. But she did, and she's kicking butt. And so the recommendation to people for that long story, and sorry so long, will be surround yourself with people you trust who are going to keep you honest. And so you might be achieving the goals that you've set, but make sure there's sounding boards around you to say, are you handling the how the right way? Are you going after doing your job to be noticed? And then, are you preparing yourself? We tend to, people in general, tend to focus on their strengths, the things that they're really good at when they evaluate themselves for themselves in their career. I don't do that. I look at what my weaknesses are, and I really work to try to work on those weaknesses, because when an opportunity presents itself, are you prepared to walk through the door? And so this job that I'm in now, how did I get to this? I'm an execution guy. I hit my sales numbers. I do all of that. But so how did I get to this worldwide job? I needed to be a systems thinker, and I hadn't done that. And so when I made the decision to take the role that I'm in now, my boss, who's no longer with Microsoft, she was a systems thinker, right? And so I said, I'm going to go work for this lady because I need to acquire those skills. And now I've done that. I've acquired those skills because, and so as doors open and opportunities present themselves, did I do the hard work on strengthening my weaknesses to prepare to walk through that door? And so that's the coaching that I want to give to your audience. That's what a young person, I want them to think through, because as they prepare, when the door opens, then they can blow through it and walk through it. The worst thing you can do is get a role that you're not prepared for. Yeah. That is a quick path to failure, and that failure is long lasting. And so, and as I think about it being, an African American, you get a few opportunities to say, one or two opportunities to say no when opportunities present themselves. But more importantly, when you get through that opportunity to go do it your best, and make sure you do it. The how is completely on point. Otherwise, you missed an opportunity because you were focusing on what you were doing, what your strength and what you did well, versus preparing for those weaknesses that in that future role you will need in order to be successful. So as you ascend in title and in money and stock and all those things, there are tools that follow that you have to have at your disposal. And the only way you're going to get those is to go do the work, to get the coaching, to have the mentors, and then sponsors will choose you based on the how.
So,
well, I think that's an excellent wrap up to that segment.
No. I got, first of all, great insights. And I wanted to say, I only have one more question, but before that, I wanted to say that I appreciate what you shared, that story you told about the young lady in Brazil who you had that hard conversation with. I appreciate it, first of all, because of the nuggets that you're sharing with us and our audience, but secondly, because of the fact that your mentoring extends into the diaspora. And so And that's a segue to my last question. So I know you're still doing work you're doing mentorship in Brazil. I don't know if it's with Blacks at Microsoft or maybe extends beyond that. Can you talk about, can we close this with you sort of sharing what you're continuing to do and why that's important?
Yeah. I'm still very active in providing mentorship and coaching for people. And so I currently have a slate of 12 people that I mentor, some at Microsoft, some outside of Microsoft that I work with. I've shifted some focus. So while I was in Brazil, I did a lot of work with an NGO. My brother, Gerones Falcones, was a NGO in Brazil. So I did a lot of work that works in favelas, and they work on promoting in the slums of Brazil, and they work on promoting confidence in people who live in the communities in Brazil. And so I did a lot of work while I was there. Since I've gone back to the US, I've shifted focus a little bit and really started to put some focus in the university and in the university environment. And so the university that I went to, Lewis University, I signed up to donate a significant amount of money every year with Microsoft matching to the university's computer science program. Because the thing that we have to go do is we have to get more brothers and sisters in STEM. And so a big priority for me now is around establishing recruitment methods and establishing, kids in high school to get them to go into into STEM, get them to go into computer science. And so I mentor the 12 people. I quarterly meet with them. I actually got 2 mentoring sessions tomorrow where I'm just going to, talk how you doing, what are you working on, what are some of the things. But I'm focusing a lot of my energy and effort now around trying to promote and get more people of color and women into STEM. Because that's the field that we work in. We are all computer scientists in the work that we do. Yep. But there's still too few of us going into that as a system of study. Yeah. And so that's where my efforts are now. And that's where investments of my personal investments are going to kind of try to do that. So the dean of students at my university, I work very closely with him, really centered and focused around, can we get more women and men of color who study computer science, because that's going to break a cycle. And I still haven't figured that piece out yet. It's very easy one-on-one, and it's very easy I found it very easy within the confines of a country. But when you're talking about the US, it's a lot harder. And so the focus for me now is, how do we attract more people like us into STEM? And then how do we get those people to interview for our companies that we work for, where they don't finish second or third in an interview, where they finish first and then get the offers to go into these jobs. And so that's where my energy is now, guys. I want to continue to work on that. I would love to continue to partner with you two specifically on that, because that's where the future has to be, because that's a sustainable system that long when we retire or our grandbabies, that's going to help our grandbabies as we think through that. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. So that's tremendous insights and advice you shared. Dave, that's all I have. Is there anything else you wanted to ask, Dave?
Just wanted to say thank you, Rodney. Look forward to partnering with you in the future. You guys who are watching this video, you made it this far, drop some comments on some things that you may want to hear about, or some things that Rodney mentioned that you'd like to expand on. We will definitely look at all the comments. But we appreciate your time, Rodney. Look forward to the next video, and happy endeavors moving forward. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, man.
Thank you for this time with us.
All right, brothers. Hey, peace and love to you all. Happy New Year. Let's definitely stay in touch, and you guys make me proud, man. Do your stuff, man.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
All right, fellas. You guys take care.
All right. Take care.